They don't tell you the scariest part of parenting comes after the diapers, the sleepless nights, and the tantrums in public places. No one warns you that one day your child, the one you once held while he drooled on your shoulder and called a banana a nana, will walk into your kitchen, lean on the counter like he pays rent, and ask, "Can I go to this party Friday night?" That's how it started. I was standing there in yoga pants I hadn't worn to do yoga in at least 2 years, eating a cold piece of toast because I forgot it existed until 20 minutes after it popped out of the toaster. My son, Jake, 15, taller than me now. When did that happen? Backpack slung carelessly over one shoulder, just dropped the question like he was asking to borrow a pencil, and I froze. My brain did that thing where it short circuits, like when you open too many tabs on your browser and suddenly your laptop starts wheezing, except instead of tabs, it was every possible scenario running simultaneously. Drinking, driving, someone's older sibling bringing vodka in a water bottle, kids sneaking off into rooms, fights breaking out, phones dying, someone live streaming something they'll regret, peer pressure, bad decisions, worst case scenarios on loop. I blinked at him. What kind of party? He shrugged. The shrug, the universal symbol of adolescent mystery and avoidance. Just people from school. It's at Eric's house. His parents will be home. I'm a mom. I've been trained to smell lies and molecules. That last part? Suspiciously specific. Who's going? Another shrug. Everyone, like Sam, Nate, Liam, people from math class. This wasn't helpful. So, co-ed? He laughed. Mom, all parties are co-ed. It's not 1993. Touché. I tried to keep my face neutral, like I wasn't spiraling internally, but the truth was, I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready for parties, for nighttime drop-offs, for trusting him to make grown-up decisions while his brain is still under construction. I wasn't ready to say yes, but I was also terrified of saying no, and what that no would mean. Would it make him lie next time? Hide things? Would I become that mom, the overbearing one who doesn't let her kid have a life? There's a weird moment as a parent when you realize that everything you've taught them, all the lectures, the boundaries, the values, the talks, God, so many talks, is about to be tested in the real world, without you there to supervise. It's like watching them walk a tightrope for the first time without a net, and you're just supposed to smile and wave. Jake looked at me, sensing the hesitation. It's not a big deal. If you're gonna say no, just say no. He wasn't being rude, just guarded, like he'd already braced for disappointment. I took a deep breath. Let me think about it, I said. Give me a few hours. He nodded and walked off, earbuds already in, like the conversation had been folded neatly and placed back on the shelf. But I couldn't stop thinking. I walked around the kitchen in circles, talking to myself, half whispering, half panicking, like a woman unraveling a mystery. Because this wasn't just about a party. This was a shift, a moment, the beginning of something I didn't know how to handle. 15. It's such a weird age. Old enough to want freedom, but still young enough to forget to bring a jacket when it's 50 degrees outside. Old enough to roll his eyes at bedtime reminders, but still quietly leave his bedroom door open at night like he used to when he was little, just in case. I know what the research says. I've read the articles. I've listened to the podcasts. I know teenagers need opportunities to develop autonomy. I know their brains are literally wired for risk during this stage, that their prefrontal cortex is still developing, which means impulse control isn't at its peak. I also know that fear doesn't care about brain science, because behind all the data is a mother who remembers the first time she left him at preschool and cried in the car for 20 minutes. A mother who once checked to see if he was breathing while he slept, every single night, for over a year. A mother who has held him in sickness, in heartbreak, in joy, and in the quiet, beautiful mundanity of life. Letting go isn't a one-time thing. It happens in stages, inch by inch, and right now, I could feel myself being asked to loosen my grip just a little more. Later that night, after Jake went to bed, I sat on the edge of the bathtub with a glass of wine, texting my best friend Rachel, who has 2 teenage boys and has already been through the party phase. I wrote, "He asked to go to a party. Am I overreacting? Or is this how the descent into madness begins? She replied with, both. Also, take a deep breath. The first one is always the hardest. She sent a second message. You've raised a good kid. Trust him a little. Just enough for him to feel it. That line hit me. Just enough for him to feel it. Because maybe it wasn't about letting go all at once. Maybe it was about showing him I trust him. Not recklessly, but intentionally. Trust isn't an all or nothing thing. It's built, given in pieces, just like independence. I went to bed with my mind still spinning, but something had softened. Maybe this was the beginning of a new chapter. Not just for Jake, but for me, too. Not a chapter about control. A chapter about trust and growth and learning to let go, even just an inch at a time. But before we dive into this thrilling story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit like so that YouTube can show you more content like this. I didn't sleep much that night. I did that thing all moms do when our brains won't shut off, replayed every possible scenario, all of them in stunning 4K anxiety vision. I imagined Jake being offered a drink and not knowing how to say no. I imagined him getting in a car with someone who wasn't sober. I imagined someone live streaming something humiliating. I imagined everything. And then I imagined saying no, him pulling away, rolling his eyes, saying I never trust him, closing a door that I've spent 15 years trying to keep open. The next morning, I stood in front of the bathroom mirror, brushing my teeth while silently negotiating with myself like a hostage situation. Okay, you can say yes, but with rules, boundaries, clear expectations. What kind of expectations? Be home by 10, no drinking, text updates, find out who the parents are. But what if he lies? Then he lies, and you deal with that. But you can't parent from fear forever. I spat, rinsed, and stared at myself. I didn't look like a woman making life or death decisions. I looked like a woman who hadn't slept and was wearing her husband's old t-shirt inside out. Classic parenting disguise. Jake was already in the kitchen, pouring cereal like nothing had changed, like he hadn't turned my entire world upside down with one sentence the night before. Morning, he said, nonchalant, spoon in hand. Morning, I replied, in what I hoped sounded like a normal voice. He looked at me carefully. So, did you think about it? Yes, I said, and I've decided I'll let you go. His eyebrows shot up. He hadn't expected that. I felt a tiny flicker of victory. But, I added quickly, there are conditions. He exhaled, already preparing to negotiate. You need to tell me exactly where it is. I want the address. I want to speak to Eric's mom or dad to confirm they'll be home. You'll be back by 10. You'll keep your phone on and answer if I call. No drinking, no vaping, no disappearing into strange bedrooms. Mom, he groaned, face in his cereal bowl. I'm serious, Jake. If you want freedom, you need to show responsibility. I know, he muttered. I'll follow the rules. And one more thing, I said. He looked up, bracing. You mess this up, and it'll be a long, long time before I say yes again. So think carefully about your choices. He nodded quietly. I get it. And then, here's the part that really got me. He smiled. Not a sarcastic smile. Not a, you're so annoying, but I'll play along smile. A real one. A smile of relief, gratitude, maybe even pride. And in that smile, I saw something I hadn't fully noticed before. He wasn't my little boy anymore. He was turning into someone else. Someone new. Someone I hadn't fully met yet. That night, I sat on the couch with a glass of wine, flipping through old photo albums on my phone. There he was at 5 years old, dressed as Spider-Man. At 9, grinning with 2 missing front teeth. At 12, arms crossed, annoyed at having to take a first day of school picture. He had been growing right in front of me, and I had been too busy managing, planning, parenting, controlling to really see it. At some point, my husband, Mark, sat down next to me. You okay? He asked, sensing the emotional fog radiating from my side of the couch. Jake's going to his first real party, I said. Mark raised his eyebrows. And you said yes. I did. He looked impressed. Look at you, letting go. I didn't say I liked it, I muttered. He laughed softly. It's part of it, you know? This is where they start needing you less. That's what scares me. He put his hand on mine. But they still need you. Just differently. I leaned my head on his shoulder and sighed. He was right, but it didn't make it any easier. Later that week, Jake came into the living room holding his phone. "Eric's mom wants to talk to you," he said, handing it to me like it was a ticking bomb. I took it, spoke to Melissa, who sounded warm, responsible, and the exact kind of woman who uses phrases like light supervision and "will be around the whole time." I told her my rules, asked a few polite but slightly paranoid questions, and hung up feeling okay. Not great, not calm, but okay. The night of the party, Jake spent nearly 20 minutes doing his hair, changed shirts 3 times, and sprayed enough body spray to fumigate a small village. "You look nice," I said, pretending not to cry behind my mascara. "Thanks," he said, grabbing his jacket. In the car, he tapped his foot nervously. It was a quiet drive. When we pulled up to the house, big, well-lit, quiet neighborhood, he looked at me. "I'll text you when I get inside. I'll keep my phone on, and I'll be out by 10. "Okay," I said, trying to keep my voice from shaking. "Thanks for letting me go, Mom." And then, he hugged me, right there, in front of the house, voluntarily, with sincerity, and for that brief, fleeting second, all the fear in my chest melted, because I saw it, the line between childhood and adulthood, blurry but real, and I was standing on it with him. I waited outside until I got the text. Inside. "All good. Love you." I drove home in silence. When I got there, I didn't pace. I didn't hover over my phone like a hawk. I watched a show. I folded laundry. I breathed. Because I had done the scariest thing a mother can do. I had trusted. And when he walked back through the door at 9:58 p.m., tired and smiling, I realized something else. Letting go doesn't mean losing them. Sometimes, it's how we find them again. In new ways, deeper ways, ways we couldn't have imagined. And maybe, just maybe, I was ready for this next chapter too. The morning after the party, Jake slept in. I didn't. I was up at 7, standing in the kitchen with a cup of coffee I didn't really want. Just being awake. I stared at the closed door of the dishwasher for 10 minutes before I remembered I hadn't turned it on. My brain was on a loop. Not anxious anymore. Not exactly. Just reflective. I'd done it. I'd let him go. And he came back. Safe, happy, and not reeking of rebellion. I should have felt triumphant, like I'd passed some secret level in the game of motherhood. But instead, I felt something I couldn't quite name. A mix of pride, sadness, and grief. That might sound dramatic, but that's what it felt like. A small, silent grief. The kind that sneaks in when you realize something is shifting. And even if it's healthy and right and part of growing up, it still feels like a little loss. When he finally came downstairs, hair a mess, eyes puffy, he opened the fridge like he hadn't eaten since the Paleolithic era. "Hey," I said, keeping my tone casual. "Good morning." "Morning," he mumbled, already pouring cereal into a bowl like it was an Olympic event. I waited, just a second longer than necessary. Then, without looking up, he said, "Last night was fun." "Yeah?" He nodded. "Thanks again for letting me go." I smiled. "Anything unexpected happen?" He shrugged, his default setting. "Not really. Eric's mom stayed in the kitchen the whole time, so people were chill. There were some sodas and chips. Someone brought a speaker. We mostly just hung out in the basement." "And any drama?" I asked, fishing gently. "Not really. Sam danced weird, though. Like, really weird." I laughed. "Well, that's a relief." Jake smirked, spoon in mouth, and that was it. The conversation moved on, but something stayed with me. The ease of it. The fact that he offered information without being interrogated, that he wanted me to know he was okay, that meant something. And later, after he went upstairs, probably to message friends and recap the night through memes and inside jokes, I sat at the kitchen table and let the memories flood in. Not of him, of me. I was 15 again, sitting in the back of someone's car with the windows fogged and the music too loud, pretending I wasn't terrified. I remembered the peer pressure, the too sweet drinks passed around like secrets, the ache to belong to something, to someone. I remembered the way I smiled when I was uncomfortable, laughed when I wanted to disappear. I remembered my own mom, waiting up on the couch, pretending to watch TV while the volume was barely audible. She never said much after I came home. but her eyes always scanned me. Not suspicious, just searching, reading between the lines of my posture, my tone, my energy. I used to think she didn't get it, that she didn't understand me. But now, looking back, I realize she understood perfectly. She just didn't want to push me away with all her fear. And now here I was, on the other side of the same story. That afternoon, I met Rachel for coffee, my best friend and current unofficial therapist. We sat at our usual spot by the window, watching people walk by with dogs and yoga mats and an enviable lack of emotional baggage. "So," she said, stirring her cappuccino, "how was the party? How are you?" I exhaled. "It went well. No disasters, no police, no unplanned therapy sessions required. He was home by 10 on the dot. And I didn't totally fall apart," I said. "Just mostly." She smiled. "You know this is just the beginning, right?" I'm painfully aware. Rachel has 2 boys, both in college now. She's been through the parties, the heartbreaks, the silent dinners, the missed curfews. She once found weed in her son's sock drawer and calmly asked if it was oregano. It wasn't. "You're doing great," she said. "Letting them go is the hardest part, especially when they're good kids. Because it's tempting to just keep them close forever." "Exactly," I said. "Sometimes I wish he'd just stay 15. Freeze him at this age, like some kind of emotional taxidermy." She laughed. "Yeah, but then you'd miss out on watching him become who he's meant to be." And there it was, the sentence that cracked something open in me. Because it's true. We spend so much time trying to protect our kids from the world that we forget to make space for the world in them. We forget that they're not just ours. They're theirs too. They have to live, fall, mess up, try again. And our job isn't to block the falls. It's to be there when they do, to help them stand back up, without saying "I told you so." That night, I sat in Jake's doorway while he played video games with his friends, headphones on, fingers moving fast. He didn't know I was watching, or maybe he did, but he didn't tell me to leave. I looked at him, really looked. His jaw was more defined now, his voice deeper, his room messier, but in a lived-in, boy becoming a man kind of way. On the desk was a folded-up hoodie he wore almost every day. Under it, his school planner, open to a page of half-done homework. The contradictions were everywhere, childhood and adulthood colliding in slow motion. And I felt proud, not just of him, but of us, of this unspoken partnership we'd been building, the trust, the respect, the quiet understanding that, even when we don't say everything, we feel it. Just as I was about to walk away, Jake turned and caught my eye. He smiled, that easy, tired, "I see you" kind of smile. "Hey, Mom," he said, lifting one side of the headphones. "Yeah? Thanks again. For everything." I nodded, throat tight, always. And in that moment, I realized the goal isn't to keep them small, it's to love them big, even as they grow away from you. Especially as they grow away from you. The thing they don't prepare you for, the part that doesn't get talked about in parenting books or blogs or support groups, is the quiet, not the peaceful, everyone's asleep and the laundry's done kind of quiet. No, I mean the kind of quiet that sneaks in when your child doesn't need you in the same way anymore, when you're not rushing to pack a lunch, check a permission slip, or wipe crumbs off their face before school. When you realize you have time, actual time, and it feels both luxurious and disorienting, that kind of quiet. Jake had a busy weekend lined up, Saturday study group in the morning, then going to the skate park with some friends. Sunday, he was helping Eric film a short video for a school project. Nothing dramatic, nothing rebellious, just a normal, healthy social calendar for a 15-year-old kid with a growing sense of independence. But for me, it felt like space, a kind of space I didn't know what to do with. Mark was working. Rachel had taken her boys on a college visit trip. My sister was out of town. I had no plans, no obligations, no lists screaming my name. And so, I did something I hadn't done in ages. I wandered. I started by cleaning, because, let's be honest, it's the gateway drug for any mom trying to avoid her feelings. I reorganized the spice cabinet, again, color-coded the pantry, wiped down the fridge with vinegar spray that smelled like fake lemons and self-delusion. But by noon, Even I couldn't pretend that another cleaning project would fix the restlessness buzzing under my skin. So I pulled out an old cardboard box from the hall closet, one of those I'll go through it someday boxes filled with random artifacts of my life before I became someone's mom. Inside, a stack of journals, some still with locks, a few CDs from high school bands I was too embarrassed to admit I loved, movie ticket stubs, a lanyard from my first job, and, folded neatly at the bottom, a denim jacket I used to wear almost every day in my 20s. I held it up, dust floating in the sunlight like particles of time itself. It smelled like something familiar. Not the actual fabric, but the version of me who used to wear it. The girl who danced at concerts, wrote bad poetry, drank overpriced coffee in mismatched mugs with big dreams and zero practical planning. I sat cross-legged on the floor, denim jacket in my lap, and cried, not because I missed that version of myself, but because I realized she didn't just vanish. She didn't get erased by motherhood. She just went quiet for a while, to make space for someone else. For Jake, for all the lunches and laundry and late-night fevers and field trip forms and the soft and sacred chaos of raising a person. But now, maybe, she was ready to speak again. Maybe there was room for both of us now. I grabbed one of the old journals and flipped through the pages. So many pages filled with hope, drama, overthinking, passion, and heartbreak. I found an entry from when I was 17, scribbled in purple ink. One day I'll be someone's mom. And I'll tell them everything I wish someone had told me. I laughed out loud, because here I was, years later, still trying to figure out what to say, still afraid I was getting it wrong, still holding that invisible weight of, am I doing enough? Too much, not enough of the right things. That afternoon, I went for a walk, not for steps, not for cardio, just to move. The air had that crisp edge that makes you want to breathe deeper. Kids rode bikes down the sidewalk. A golden retriever barked at its own reflection in a car door. Somewhere, someone was grilling, and the smell made my stomach growl and my heart ache in a way I couldn't quite explain. I passed a small park and saw a young mom chasing a toddler who had just discovered how fast her legs could carry her. The mother looked exhausted and radiant in the way only new moms do, flushed, a little lost but entirely full. She caught the child, scooped her up, and twirled around with her. The little girl squealed with laughter, and for a moment, I remembered what that felt like. The weight of a small body in my arms, the way Jake used to cling to me when he was scared, or tired, or just didn't want to let go. My arms ached for that version of him, and yet, I didn't want to go back, because the boy I had now, he was incredible, thoughtful, smart, kind, hilarious in the driest way. He made obscure references I had to Google just to understand. But when he smiled, when he really smiled, it lit something in me that was the same as it had always been. When I got home, I found a note on the kitchen counter, handwritten, in his slanted, slightly too fast handwriting. Went to Eric's, left my phone, but I'll be back by 6. I know the rules. Love you. That last part, love you, undid me. Not because he wrote it, but because he didn't have to. And he still did. That night, we ate dinner together, just the two of us. He told me about filming the school project, about how Eric couldn't stop laughing during a serious scene, and how they had to reshoot it 4 times. He even offered me a bite of his dessert, a clear sign of emotional maturity, if you ask me. I watched him talk, animated and comfortable, and I realized something. Maybe I wasn't just letting go of him. Maybe I was finally reclaiming me, not in a dramatic, now I'll travel the world and write a memoir kind of way, but in a quiet, deeply personal way, like putting on a denim jacket that still fits, like opening an old journal and deciding to write again, like sitting at dinner with your 15-year-old son and knowing that no matter how much space he needs, your love still fills the room, and that's enough. And if you are enjoying the story, help us out by subscribing to the channel and giving a like. It happened on a Friday. A small thing, a little lie, if I'm being generous, but still, a crack. The kind of thing that makes your stomach tighten in that I knew it was too good to last kind of way. Jake had told me he was going to Eric's house after school to work on a science project. And because things had been going well, because he'd been following the rules, coming home on time, communicating, I didn't think twice. I even offered to drop him off. He said Eric's mom was picking everyone up. I believed him. But around 6:30, Rachel texted me, "Hey, just saw Jake at the mall with a group of kids. Didn't realize they had a project there." At first, I reread the message 3 times, trying to convince myself she must have seen someone else. But no, she was sure. "Gray hoodie, black sneakers, your clone," she wrote. My heart didn't race. It sank. It wasn't the mall. It wasn't even that he'd gone without asking. It was the lie, the specific choice to tell me one story while living another. I sat at the kitchen table, phone in my hand, and felt stupid. Not angry, not yet, just disappointed, and weirdly embarrassed, as if trusting my own child had been naive. I texted him calmly, "Hey, are you still at Eric's?" 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. Actually, we came to the mall for a bit. I should have told you. Sorry." There it was. The truth. Late but delivered. And somehow, that small admission stung even more. I didn't reply right away. I didn't want to say something reactive. I needed time to figure out which version of me should respond. The one who leads with love, or the one who leads with rage dressed up as disappointment. When he got home at 7:45, I was still sitting in the same chair, calm on the outside. But on the inside, I was flipping through every memory of every conversation where I'd said, "If you break my trust, it changes everything." He walked in with a sheepish look, dropped his backpack by the door, and said, "Hey." I looked up, said nothing. "I know," he said, standing awkwardly in the doorway. "I should have told you." I let the silence sit for a moment longer than comfortable. "You lied to me," I finally said. He nodded. "I didn't mean to. Well, I guess I did, but not in, like, a big way." "Jake," I said quietly, "you looked me in the eyes and told me one thing. Then you did something else. That's not a small thing." "I didn't do anything bad," he blurted. "We just walked around, got food, talked. No drinking, no smoking, no sneaking around. I swear." "That's not the point," I said, my voice tighter now. "It's not about what you did. It's about what you chose to hide." He opened his mouth to say something, then stopped, sat down across from me. "I didn't think you'd let me go," he admitted. And there it was, the root. "You didn't give me the chance," I replied. He looked down at his hands, picked at a loose thread on his sleeve. "I'm not perfect, Jake," I said. "I don't always make the right call, but I try. And part of this phase we're in, is learning how to trust each other. You want more freedom. I want to give it to you. But freedom without honesty? That's not trust. That's just luck." He nodded slowly. "I'm sorry," he said, and it was real. We sat there for a while. I didn't launch into a lecture. I didn't throw out punishment like a vending machine of consequences. Instead, I told him how I felt, not as a disciplinarian, but as a human being who had been hurt. And he listened, really listened. Later, in the quiet of my room, I let myself cry, because it wasn't just the lie. It was the shift, that slow unraveling of childhood, the blur between boy and man, the loss of simplicity. I missed when the hardest part of our day was convincing him to wear a coat. I missed the safety of knowing everything, his friends, his schedule, his snack preferences, his secrets. Now, there were layers. And yet, that's what we raise them for, isn't it? To grow up, to pull away, to become their own people. The next morning, Jake knocked on my door. "I cleaned the kitchen," he said, "and I told Eric's mom I won't be joining the group today. I figured I should stay home." "You're not grounded," I said. "I know," he replied, "but I feel like I should show you I mean it." I nodded, moved more than I expected. "Thank you." We had pancakes for breakfast. No phones, no tension, just the 2 of us, forks clinking on plates, talking about little things, movie trailers, science teachers, the weird kid in class who brought a lizard to school. And while we talked, I realized something. Trust isn't a light switch. It's a dimmer. It brightens and dims. It flickers. It needs maintenance. It's not built on perfection, but on moments like this, when mistakes become conversations, when love shows up through accountability, when the person you raised begins to show you the kind of person they're becoming and gives you hope that they're on their way. Maybe not there yet, but trying. And sometimes, trying is everything. Somewhere along the journey of raising a child, there comes a moment, subtle, barely visible, when they stop reaching for your hand as they cross the street, and you let them. Not because they don't need you anymore, but because they think they don't. And part of loving them, terrifying as it is letting them believe that for a little while. Jake hadn't held my hand in years, but lately, I'd felt the absence of it more than ever. And not just in the literal sense. He was changing, not just in the obvious ways. The voice that had dropped an octave, the sudden interest in cologne, the near constant battle over socks left in the hallway, but in deeper, quieter ways. He was becoming more private, more thoughtful, sometimes distant, sometimes surprisingly mature. The kind of growth you don't notice until you find yourself staring at him across the dinner table and wondering, when did your shoulders get so broad? And then came the Tuesday night that cracked me open in the best possible way. Jake was in his room, headphones on, working on something for school. I was on the couch, wrapped in a blanket with a cup of lukewarm tea, scrolling mindlessly through my phone. Half my feed was parenting memes I didn't find funny anymore, and the other half was women my age getting Botox or launching lifestyle brands or training for marathons. I felt detached from them, from myself. And then I heard it, a soft knock, not urgent, just there. Jake peeked around the corner, holding something behind his back. He looked nervous. "Hey," he said. "Are you busy?" I blinked. "Not really." "Why?" He sat down next to me on the couch, still hiding whatever he had in his hand. I had this writing assignment for English. We were supposed to write a personal reflection." I smiled. "That's great. What did you write about?" He hesitated. "You." My heart skipped. He handed me a piece of paper, printed, creased down the middle, like he'd folded it and unfolded it a dozen times. "I don't have to read it out loud, right?" he asked, already bracing. "No," I said gently. "I'll just read it." And I did. It wasn't long, maybe half a page, but every word clung to me like it had weight. When I was little, I used to think my mom knew everything. Now I know she doesn't. But I also know she tries harder than anyone. She listens when she doesn't agree. She lets me mess up and still makes pancakes the next morning. I don't tell her enough, but I pay attention. I remember the little things she does. I know she worries, but I also know she trusts me. That matters, more than she probably realizes. Sometimes I wish I could tell her everything, but being a teenager is weird. It's like you're building a new version of yourself, but you don't know where all the pieces go yet. She doesn't push. She waits. That means something, too. I hope one day, if I have kids, I'll be like her. Not perfect, just here, like she always is. I didn't cry right away. I read it once, then again, then a third time, slower, like tasting something you know you'll crave later. When I finally looked up, Jake was pretending to study the carpet. That was, my voice caught, beautiful and honest. He shrugged. "It's just a school thing." But I knew better. It wasn't just a school thing. It was a window, one he opened on his own. "I'm proud of you," I said. He glanced at me, the corners of his mouth tugging up just enough to show he believed me. We sat there in silence. No phones, no distractions. Just the kind of peace that settles when you realize you're not alone in how you feel. And I thought, this is what I've been waiting for. Not some grand gesture, not a perfect outcome. Just this connection, presence, a small, beautiful moment of being seen by the person I thought I was losing. The next day, I took a walk by myself. No earbuds, no podcast, just me and the crisp air, the sound of leaves crunching under my boots, and the slow unraveling of my thoughts. I found myself thinking about roles, about how motherhood is often defined by action, what we do, but maybe the real power is in what we witness. We watch them grow. We watch them fall and get back up. We watch them try to figure themselves out, not to fix it, but to be there when they need someone who remembers who they were before the world told them who to be. And maybe that's the role now. Not the protector, not the manager, but the quiet, steady presence in the background, saying, "I see you. I'm here. You're not alone." That evening, Jake asked if we could get pizza, just the two of us. We went to the same place we used to go when he was little. Same red booths, same checkered floor, Same laminated menus, now a little more faded. He ordered pepperoni. I got my usual, and we sat across from each other, talking about Marvel movies and school stress, and why the crust is the most underrated part of the pizza. And it hit me. We were friends, not equals, not besties, but friends in the most honest way. We liked being around each other, and I realized, maybe that's the reward for all those early years. The sleepless nights, the tantrums, the worry, the silent car rides, the slammed doors. Eventually, if you keep showing up, you get moments like this, pizza and peace. The moment came out of nowhere. It was Sunday afternoon, rainy, gray, one of those days when time seems to stretch long and slow, and every room in the house feels a little softer. Jake had been upstairs most of the morning working on a history project, or possibly just avoiding chores. The line is often blurry. I was cleaning out the closet in our hallway, the one we all pretend doesn't exist until something falls on our heads when we open the door. It was a mess. Old board games, one glove with no pair, expired batteries, tangled Christmas lights, and buried in the back corner, under a pile of mismatched scarves, was a box I hadn't seen in years. Inside were some of my high school notebooks, a few pictures, and a handful of folded-up letters. Actual handwritten letters, the kind people used to pass in class before texting existed. Most were from friends. A few were from my mom. But one, just one, was from a boy I barely remembered. I recognized the handwriting immediately. Slanted, messy, written in blue pen with too much pressure. I hesitated, then unfolded it. I think you're amazing, but you try so hard to act like you're not, like you don't care, like nothing touches you. But I see you, Sarah, and I think you're worth knowing. If you ever stop pretending you're fine, I'll still be here. I stared at those words for a long time, as if trying to reach through them, to touch the girl I once was, because I remembered now, the pretending, the hiding, the constant performance of, I've got this, when, truthfully, I didn't. I thought about how often I'd dismissed my own feelings, how I'd made myself small so I wouldn't take up space, how I'd let people walk away because asking them to stay felt needy, how long it took me, years, really, to believe that my voice mattered. And suddenly, I saw Jake, not literally, but in my mind, his quiet pauses, his reluctance to talk some days, his tendency to brush off compliments or say I'm fine with that look that means anything, but he wasn't me, he was his own person. But still, we carried echoes of each other. Later that evening, as we sat side by side on the couch watching some forgettable comedy, I found myself glancing at him more than I watched the screen. He laughed at the dumbest parts. I mean really laughed, full-throated and unself-conscious, the kind of laugh that comes from a place untouched by insecurity or shame. But then, a scene came on where the teenage character got humiliated at a party, filmed, posted, laughed at, and Jake shifted, just slightly. He pulled the blanket up a little higher, scratched the back of his neck, looked away from the screen. I didn't say anything right then, but I noticed. And when the credits rolled and the room went quiet except for the rain still falling outside, I turned to him. Hey, can I ask you something kind of random? He shrugged. Sure. That scene, the one at the party, did it make you uncomfortable? He hesitated, just a beat too long. It's just a movie. I waited. He looked at me. Yeah, I guess. I don't know. It's stupid, but stuff like that could happen. People record everything. One mistake, and it's everywhere. His voice was quiet, his shoulders tense. And does that make you feel worried? Pressured? I asked. He nodded. I guess I just try not to be that kid, the one who messes up and gets turned into a joke. I felt something crack in my chest, because there it was again, that fear of taking up too much space, of doing it wrong, of being seen in a way you can't control. I touched his shoulder gently. Jake, messing up doesn't make you weak, it makes you human. And if you ever get it wrong, even really wrong, you can still come to me. I need you to know that. You're never a joke to me. He didn't answer right away, but he leaned against me. Not a full collapse. Not like when he was 5 and would burrow into me after a long day, but just enough. Just close enough to say I hear you. I feel safe. And as we sat there, the storm outside humming, I realized something I'd forgotten. We don't just parent them. We reparent ourselves too. We give the love we wish we'd received. We speak the words we needed to hear at 15. We offer grace that we never gave ourselves. And maybe, just maybe, in doing that, we heal a little. The next day, Jake came into the kitchen while I was unloading groceries. He stood there awkwardly for a second before saying, "So, there's this concert coming up. It's at a venue downtown. Pretty chill. I think some of my friends are going." I paused, a red bell pepper in my hand. "It's not until next month," he added quickly. "I'm not asking yet. I just wanted to put it on your radar." I smiled. "Thank you for telling me." He nodded. Then, after a beat, he said, "I wouldn't go if you weren't okay with it. I mean, I want to, but only if you trust me." And in that moment, I could have cried, because it wasn't about the concert. It was about the bridge, the one we've been building, brick by brick, between his world and mine, between the child I used to carry and the young man I'm learning to walk beside. I still don't have all the answers, but I know this. He's not pretending to be fine, and neither am I. We're just figuring it out, together. And for now, that's enough. The night before Jake's 16th birthday, I sat alone at the kitchen table, staring at a candle I hadn't lit yet. It was almost 11. The house was quiet, that peaceful kind of quiet that still feels like it's holding something. A breath, a memory, a heartbeat. There was a cupcake on a plate in front of me, just like the ones I used to sneak into his lunchbox every year on his birthday. A small tradition I held on to longer than I probably should have. 16. I whispered the number to myself like it was sacred. How did we get here? It wasn't that long ago I was rocking him to sleep, humming songs I barely knew the lyrics to. Not that long ago, I was reading picture books in silly voices and brushing his hair away from his forehead before kissing him goodnight. And yet, here we were. He didn't want a party. Said it felt cringe. His words, not mine. He asked for a small dinner with just the two of us and Mark. Said maybe later, he'd hang out with his friends at the arcade. I'd offered to make his favorite pasta. He'd shrugged and said, "Yeah, that sounds good." Like it wasn't a big deal. Like he didn't know I'd been planning it in my head for a week. I lit the candle, just to see the flame. And in that glow, I saw everything. All the years, the doubts, the joys, the fights over curfews and vegetables, the car rides where neither of us spoke, but everything was understood. The laughter that always returned after hard conversations, the letters, the lies, the apologies, the moments of grace. Raising a child is like building something without blueprints. You try your best, pray the structure holds, and hope that when they walk into the world, they do it with enough foundation to stand on their own. That's what Jake was doing now. Not perfectly, not without stumbles, but steadily. He was showing me, in his own quiet way, who he was becoming. And more than that, he was letting me in on the process. The next morning, he came downstairs in a hoodie that was too big and jeans that had seen better days. "Happy birthday," I said, hugging him a little longer than usual. He let me. "Thanks," he said. "Feels weird. Getting older always does." He grabbed a banana, took a bite, and leaned on the counter. "So, I was thinking, after dinner, maybe we could go for a drive. Just us." I blinked. "Of course. Any reason?" He shrugged. "I don't know. Just, I feel like I want to talk." And there it was. The full circle. Not the kind that ends things. The kind that starts over. But from a better place. That night, after dinner, we got in the car. I let him pick the music. It was a mix of moody instrumentals and nostalgic pop songs from when he was little. The kind we used to dance to in the kitchen. Him on my feet. Both of us laughing like life would never change. We didn't talk at first. Just drove. Windows cracked. City lights blurring past. Then he said, "You ever feel like you're in between versions of yourself?" I smiled. "More than you know." He nodded. "I feel like I'm not who I was, but not who I'm gonna be either. Just floating." I didn't rush to answer. I let the silence carry the truth for a second. "That's not a bad place to be," I said. "It's uncomfortable, yeah, but it means you're growing." He looked at me. Really looked. "I just don't want to screw everything up." I reached for his hand, held it like I hadn't in years. "You will," I said. "Sometimes, but that doesn't mean you're broken. It just means you're becoming." His eyes softened. "That's kind of terrifying." "Welcome to adulthood," I smiled. "The fear never really goes away. You just learn how to live with it and keep going anyway. We drove in silence after that, but it wasn't empty. It was full of trust, of love, of everything we'd built, and everything we were still figuring out. When we got home, he got out of the car and stood there for a second. "Thanks for the drive," he said. "And for being you." I didn't cry until after he went inside. Not because I was sad, but because, for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was exactly where I needed to be. Not holding him back, not chasing after him, just walking beside him, one step behind, when he needed me, and far enough away to let him lead. Motherhood, I've learned, isn't about keeping them close. It's about letting them know they can always come home, and that you'll be there, not as the one in charge anymore, not even as the one they need every moment, but as someone they trust to see them fully, even in the in-between, especially in the in-between. That's where real love lives. And now, as I write this, I'm not scared anymore. He's still growing, and so am I. If you enjoyed the story, give it a like and subscribe to the channel to support us. We'd also love it if you left a comment telling us which city you're listening from and whether you identified with this mother in any way. Have you ever gone through something similar to this story? If you can, share it with another mother who might be needing this dose of affection and hope. You are very important to us, and we thank you for being part of this community of reflection and love. Thank you so much, and see you next time.